Want is one thing, being a fit candidate to spawn new life is another, and the sands of time were not moving in her favor. It was a dream she'd given up on. An agreement one makes when they've crossed that invisible line that says, I suppose I'll just have to sleep in every day forever. So how, you may ask, how did the egg of a 42-year-old woman and the seed of a 62-year-old man, having hooked up only once, or so she tells me, also gross, intermingle to produce the icon speaking here before you? How did this miraculous bit of birthing occur, second only to the Immaculate Conception of Jesus himself? The answer simply is deli. It must be deli. The Carnegie Deli was a New York landmark for more than 79 years. Opened in 1929, it served its loyal customers oversized portions of pastrami and corned beef slathered in Russian dressing, and sometime in February of 1986, it served my mother and father a late-night post-coital feast. I hate that sentence a lot. And while yes, it's reasonable to think that deli, having no known reproductive qualities, had nothing to do with the miracle of birth that occurred that night, I still like to think that the sodium of the pickles or the bubbles of the cream soda were somewhat responsible for pushing the puck past the goalie. My mom and dad knew each other, kind of. Before the deli, they were acquaintances, business colleagues, the kind of people who meet twice a year for lunch and at the end say, we should do this more often, but never do. They weren't close enough to share a sandwich, let alone a baby, and I'm sure when my father found out my mom was pregnant, similar thoughts came crashing through his philandering head. Now, I'm not one for slander, and while I've not named this mysterious man I call Dad, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt when he told my mom he was separated from his wife the night I was conceived. And hasn't he paid his karmic debt anyway? I mean, gosh, nothing gets in the way of a well-intentioned affair like impregnating a person whose middle name you don't know. I don't know a lot about my dad, but I do know a lot about being a man, and while I can only speak for myself, I know what it feels like to be blinded by the thrill of a romantic interlude. I also know the feeling you get once it's over, realizing that perhaps there was more to be considered before engaging in such a consequential act. All that is to say, I'm sure my dad was just trying to get some, and get some he did. Some illegitimate son, that is. Sure, it was irresponsible of him to disregard the realities of a possible pregnancy, but thank God he did. Thanks for throwing caution to the wind, Dad. Happy to be here. So you're probably asking yourself, who does this? Like, who sleeps with a man who is supposedly separated after she was summoned to his high-rise apartment for some business advice? Oh, God, Mom, gets pregnant and decides to keep the kid, knowing full well she might have to do this alone. Well, that woman is Barbara Peck, and she's my mother. My mom is an enigma, a once-in-a-generation type of person, a tigress, an empath, a counterculture Jewish priestess who has been sticking her middle finger up to societal norms since she was a kid. Simply put, she gives very few fucks, and until I was born made a habit of breaking convention in how she worked, lived, and loved. It was not an odd occurrence for her to jump in a car, drive the 1,200-mile trip to Florida, cut hair on the beach all summer for pocket money, or get fired from being a waitress for sitting down with customers and picking food off their plate. One of my favorite stories is when she opened an employment agency at 26, only to be held up by robbers a few weeks into starting the business. Now, when I asked if she was scared, she replied, scared? No, I mean, no one likes getting tied up, but I tried to offer the guys a job. Seems silly that they would rob an employment agency. They should have just filled out an application. That's my mom. Fearless. So there she stood, pregnant, unmarried, in her early 40s, and ready for whatever came next. It shouldn't have happened. The odds were not in her favor, so the fact that she was pregnant seemed like a cosmic confluence of events. My father, on the other hand, was, let's just say, less excited about this whole cosmic confluence. Here's the thing. I don't blame him for not wanting to be in my life. Majority rules, someone once said to me when I told them that I didn't know my dad. It took me a minute to digest what that meant.